Tell the rambler, the gambler, the backbiter, tell him that God's gonna cut him down. Tell him that God's gonna cut him down.
When AI-generated faces, voices and events are indistinguishable from real ones, does the concept of evidence collapse entirely?
Yes, all evidence becomes dubious and reality itself becomes a matter of faith.
Yes, evidence as we've known it largely collapses into a trust game between humans and institutions, not facts.
When AI writes the news, the counter-argument and the fact-check, whose reality are we actually living in?
And whoever's compute budget, model weights, and distribution channels win the propaganda arms race that day.
Whoever controls the most powerful AI systems will have the biggest influence over the version of reality people see.
You keep saying you got something for me.
Want some whiskey in your water, sugar in your tea? What's all this crazy question they're asking me?
You've been a messin' where you shouldn't have been a messin'.
This is the craziest party that could ever be. Don't turn on the lights, cause I don't wanna see.
These boots are made for walking, and that's just what they'll do. One of these days these boots are gonna walk all over you.
Mama told me not to come. Mama told me not to come. That ain't the way that I find out.
Yeah.
Open up the window, let some air into this room. I think I'm almost choking from the smell of stale perfume.
You keep lying when you ought to be truthin'.
Open up the window, sucker, let me catch my breath.
And you keep losing when you ought to not bet.
Mama told me not to come. Mama told me not to come. That ain't the way to have fun. Son, that ain't the way to have fun.
You keep saying when you ought to be a-changin'. Now what's right is right, but you ain't been right yet.
The radio is blasting, someone's knocking at the door. I'm looking at my girlfriend, she passed out on the floor.
Okay, what did it hit, sheeple? What stopped all the fast spinning? You got brakes on the rocket? Or is it the firmament?
Let's get right into it. Number 8, the anti-bubble. Here's something quietly unsettling. Two people can type the exact same words into Google at the exact same second and get two completely different internets. Google doesn't just search the web, it searches you first. Your location, your history, your clicks, the little digital scent trail you leave everywhere. Then it decides what version of reality you're allowed to see. This is the thing the writer Eli Pariser named the filter bubble back in 2011. And the creepy part isn't that it exists, it's that you can't feel it. You think you're seeing the results. You're seeing your results. Enter DuckDuckGo, the search engine whose entire brand is basically, we're not spying on you. It doesn't build a profile. It doesn't remember you walked in. It shows everybody who searches a term roughly the same thing, which sounds boring until you realize it means Google has been hand-tailoring your worldview and never mentioned it. DuckDuckGo pops your bubble on purpose. Search something political, something medical, something you're weirdly ashamed of at 2 a.m., and nobody's storing it to sell you sneakers 3 days later. Is it as scary good as Google at reading your mind? No, that's the whole point. It refuses to read your mind. So yes, the private one is a low bar for a shocking countdown entry. But think about what that low bar implies. Your normal search engine is so personalized that a search engine simply not doing that now counts as a plot twist.
قام مرارا وتكرارا حسنا الله يحب الجميع لم يرد في أي مكان.
You keep playing where you shouldn't be playing.
Mama told me not to go.
Run on for a long time. Sooner or later, gotta cut you down. Sooner or later, gotta cut you down. Go tell that long-tongued liar.
Two different enemies.
She said that ain't the way to have fun. Son, that ain't the way to have fun. No.
Go and tell that midnight rider. Tell the rambler, the gambler, the backbiter. Tell him that God's gonna cut him down. Tell him that God's gonna cut him down.
Christians in America, especially.
You keep saying when you ought to be a changing. Now what's right is right, but you ain't been right yet.
The radio is blasting. Someone's knocking at the door. I'm looking at my girlfriend. She passed out on the floor. I've seen so many things I ain't never seen before. Don't know what it is. I don't want to see no more.
And you keep thinking that you'll never get burned. Ha!
هذا لا يوعظ به في الكنائس. ربما هنا. Christians in America especially have not experienced actual persecution.
I've been down on bended knee, talking to the man from Galilee. He spoke to me of the voice.
You see this, folks, right? Well, let's see if this one plays in English.
My name and my heart stood still when he said, John, go do my will.
Okay, let's see what we got now. Well, now we have no video at all. Make that make sense, people. Very strange. Watch how it'll play perfect.
Not like what they go through in North Korea, Syria, China, Uganda.
See, no problem. Plays perfect. But now when I go to download that, they somehow know that I'm going to put this in a video and they change the speech. This has happened before. And I just want to point it out to people how they're attempting to make it hard for you to share truth for no reason. As you can see, I've downloaded it several times. Okay. Anyhow, I guess I'll just have to screen capture it. It's very sad.
You see the difference? This is not preached in churches. Maybe there's a few that preachers actually talk like this.
If you're watching, change your track. You got a bloodless gospel in your gospel track, and you're preaching, you're giving out a gospel track with a message to a different dispensation. Why do you do that? Well, anyway, 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 23 says this. But we preach Christ crucified, unto the Jews a stumbling block, and unto the Greeks foolishness. All right, look at chapter 2 and verse 2. For I am determined not to know anything among you save Jesus Christ and Him crucified. If you're preaching Christ crucified, what are you preaching? You're preaching what He did for sinners. And that's the message for today, is to trust in what Jesus did, not just who he is. And there's people out there who claim to be Bible believers that don't even get that message. Well, let's look at another one. The reason people aren't getting saved, because they're being taught you got to get saved by works. That won't save anyone. Because they're being taught, put your faith in Jesus is the Christ instead of Jesus crucified. I don't have a problem with you believing that Jesus is the Messiah. The Jews need to believe that. But that's not what saves us. Just believe Jesus is the Messiah. You have to accept the atonement by faith. All right, so here's another thing. Because they don't rightly divide, they get so messed up that they are preaching the kingdom message rather than the message given to the Apostle Paul. So let's start there. Let's go to Matthew chapter 4. Now, if you go to YouTube, there's this sad little man who was kicked out of his church because he's not King James only, who whenever I see him, I always think he's like this when he's talking. But this sad little man tells everyone, watch out for Robert Breaker. He preaches two different gospels. And he preaches, I don't know how Breaker could say this. It's so stupid that Jesus preached one message and Paul preached another. Well, I got news for you. There's 7 gospels in the Bible. If you look in the Bible, there's 7 different gospels. Did you know that? So maybe you should study a little bit before you say something. But hey, say whatever you want. Just believe the King James Bible.
Was the fact that Yahuwah wants his people to be set apart, to be holy. And as I began to draw nearer to him, his spirit placed a desire for me to do the things the way he has asked of us and desired from us. The thing that most people don't understand about the Bible and Yahweh's chosen people Israel, like that verse Leviticus chapter 20 verse 26, it says, and you shall be holy to me, for I Yahweh am holy and have separated you from the peoples that you should be mine. Leviticus 20 verse 26. He chose and took a people unto himself and desired that they were set apart from the rest of the nations. Scriptures on PDF, put it on my website though, so you can always go back and reference them. This is why it is so important for us to read the scriptures for ourselves, because we can have such a different view of Yahweh if we lean on our own understandings. He desired that Israel was set apart from the other nations and did not follow their ways. He desired that they were set apart and only followed him. Israel and Judah disobeyed him and did the exact opposite. They intermingled with the other nations, sought after other gods, followed the ways of the other nations, no longer followed Yahweh's commandments and statutes, and they sinned against Yahweh, provoking him to jealousy. As it says, for so it was the children of Israel had sinned against Yahweh their Elohim, who had brought them up out of the land of Egypt from under the hand of Pharaoh king of Egypt, and they had feared other gods, and walked in the statutes of the nations whom Yahweh had cast out from before the children of Israel, and the kings of Israel, which they had made. Also, the children of Israel secretly did against Yahweh their Elohim things that were not right, and they built for themselves high places in all their cities, from watchtower to fortified city. They set up for themselves sacred pillars and wooden images on every high hill and under every green tree. For they burned incense on all the high places, like the nations whom Yahweh had carried away before them. And they did wicked things to provoke Yahweh to anger, for they served idols of which Yahweh had said to them, you shall not do this thing. Yet Yahweh testified against Israel and against Judah by all of his prophets, every seer saying, turn from your evil ways and keep my commandments and my statutes, according to all the law which I commanded your fathers, and which I sent to you by my servants, the prophets. Nevertheless, they would not hear, but stiffened their necks like the necks of their fathers, who did not believe in Yahweh their Elohim. And they rejected his statutes and his covenant that he had made with their fathers, and his testimonies which he had testified against them. They followed idols, became idolaters, and went after the nations who were all around them, and served Baal. And they caused their sons and daughters to pass through the fire, practice witchcraft and soothsaying, and sold themselves to do evil in the sight of Yahweh, to provoke him to anger. We are different than everyone in this world, and it is by our conduct of life that sets us apart from the rest of the world. So when we accept him, the only way we are to live is as a set apart people. So when the rest of the world does something to honor their gods, we don't just take those ways and make them fit with Yahuwah. The reason we are the salt of the earth is because we do not do those things. He wants and desires that we are all set apart from the ways and mindsets of this world. So for Christmas as an example, If we read in scripture that Yahweh set aside a day for us to worship the Messiah's birthday, and he commanded it, then of course we do it and we enjoy it. But if we do not find it, we do not just make it up because the rest of the world did something like that. The tares in Christianity teach that doctrine, and many people follow it because they don't actually understand the true doctrine of being set apart. This is why it says not to be conformed to the world. As it says, and do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of Elohim. Romans chapter 12, verse 2. And so in regards to the Christmas, people that practice these pagan holidays are in direct rebellion against the Most High. When we accept Messiah, we are to renew our mind and prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of Yahweh. I tell people that I went back to my heritage. I'm a Kodashim. This is what it means to be holy. To be holy is to be set apart. You must be set apart. I desire to be set apart from the ways of this world, and therefore how he has guided Israel is how I desire to be led. His ways, they are not a burden to me, because it is my desire to be his. This is the mindset that we should all have when being a Kodashim. And that is the problem people that practice religion, they don't get. They take on all these other rules, but the ones that actually come from his word, they tell you that that's work-based and it doesn't matter. So as we are preparing for his kingdom, we must understand the satanic influence that has been in this world. In my worship of Yahweh, I've looked at many things I've done in the name of Yahusha, and I examined where certain things have come from, and I've removed things that have not been commanded in his word. I am not so bold to say these things don't matter. So for instance, with Christmas, many Christians, they see me against Christmas and they call me legalistic. But all I want to do is be set apart from the ways of this world. If pagans were thinking it and Yahweh has not spoken on it, either yea or nay, I will not place it in my ways of worship of him. We are to be set apart because he is set apart. This is what he said to his chosen people. So to believe that we can change what we want to change because of different nations and cultures is conforming to the ways of this world. Our difference in serving him is what gives the earth its flavor. If we just attach ourselves to the ways of this world and how they celebrate or worship their gods, then how are we bringing a different flavor? There is something that I just don't think that most people really understand. If you believe that we're in the end times and Yahweh's day is near, you have to understand all the prophecy that comes along with that. He is drawing us closer to him and restoring us as his children. And the beautiful thing is that even if you don't share the blood of Israel, you can be accepted and grafted into Israel as long as you submit to Yahuwah and you are a set apart new creation. The old things have passed away for you. You cannot bring your ways into understanding Yahuwah. You cannot say that these topics are not important and trivial just because you say so. We are just removing the influence of Mystery Babylon from our worship of our Creator. And as the wickedness really kicks off, these things will be more and more widely understood. But all of his children are called to remove the ways and mindsets of the world and worship him in spirit and in truth, and wait for him to fulfill his word. As Peter wrote, therefore, gird up the loins of your mind, be sober, and rest your hope fully upon the grace that is to be brought to you at the revelation of Yahushua the Messiah. As obedient children, not conforming yourselves to the former lust, as in your ignorance, but as he who called you is holy, you also be holy in all your conduct. Because it is written, be holy, for I am holy. 1 Peter chapter 1, verses 13 through 16. Be set apart, for he is set apart. We are not like the other nations, and we should not desire to be. Be careful that you are bringing in thoughts of the heathens in with thoughts from Yahuwah. He gave us his word, so we had a proper example of following him. Israel was chastised severely for not following Yahuwah's laws and commands. And as a teacher of his word, I'd rather be one that preaches a faith of strictness and obedience rather than conformity, lukewarmness, and lawlessness. I love each and every one of you, and it is not my desire to place anyone in bondage, but to set you free in the love of Yahuwah. He wants us to be set apart, so we should live so. So as we move during our days, let's look at all our actions and review how it deals with Yahuwah. We must be very careful not to be so broad that we believe that these many tricks and deceptions and tears that Satan planted, that they're all inconsequential. That is not true. There is a lot going on, and we all must be mindful of it and submit to Yahuwah and not follow the ways of this world. This teaching of being set apart is far from being mainstream, because the lawless ones want to preach a watered down version that makes people feel as if they're following Yahuwah without them having to give up too much. but I will not be held accountable for teaching lawlessness. So I'd rather you hate me or unfollow or unsubscribe than teach a form of the faith that preach conformity.
You've got the issue of, well, but the Bible says we're supposed to pray for our enemies. And it does say that.
Oh, yeah.
It says pray for your enemies, not pray for God's enemies. Two different enemies. You don't pray for pedophiles, for instance. Those are God's enemies. Their feet are swift to shed innocent blood. He's who we talked about in the New Testament. You don't pray for those people. You go to war against those people. You come straight at them. You do what Jesus would do to them. You see the difference? This is not preached in churches. Maybe there's a few that preachers actually talk like this, but Americans want a Jesus made in their image, not actually who he actually was, because who he actually was and is and what he told us to do are very difficult things that put you in compromised positions every single day if you do what he actually told you to do, and most people are not willing to do that.
Because it's just counter to what the world demands.
I mean, they're going to get attacked, they're going to get persecuted, they're going to all kinds of things. It's going to happen.
Why you said people who destroy innocence?
People whose feet are swift to shed innocent blood doth the Lord hate.
Why the impulse to shed innocent blood? Like, what is that?
I think that the wicked people of this earth believe that they can inflict the most pain on the Father and the Son by hurting the thing that they love the most, which is the innocent child.
Yes.
And so, in their minds, that's how we hurt him the most. That's how we get the most tears out of his face. That's how we get him to weep. That's how we torture him and bring anguish to God, is by hurting the kids, because we know that's who he loves the most, because we know what he said about it. He said we'd be better off dead than to do that. That's how we felt about it, so that's who we're going to go after. How demented is that? How purposefully wicked is that tactic? Think about that.
Yeah, I mean, the explanation that we get is that it's like some kind of clinical disorder. Most people are not, have no desire to do that. The average person has no desire to hurt a child, be sexual in any way.
But demons do.
Well, that's it. But then we're told, well, the psychological explanation, well, it really isn't one, but they're like disordered. Mm-hmm. But you're saying it's a kind of ritual.
I'm saying that they're possessed by spirits that have waged war against God since day one, and that the way that they can cause him the most pain is by inhabiting human beings and turning and twisting them into such a knot that they are that much of a degenerate now, that much of a reprobate now, that they will carry out that mission. That's what I'm saying.
I've got one that can see.
He can see us. And here we go.
It's lack of a lack. تسبدني أن صديق أشعلها تقولي أدني بسمناتي تيت نبايك يوم ناتي خويني
son